The media world is on fire over Washington Post reports that an intelligence whistleblower has filed a complaint about President Trump making an alarming promise to an unspecified foreign leader, Congress demanding the details. And the Wall Street Journal now saying that Trump asked Ukraine's president to revive an investigation of Joe Biden and his son Hunter.
President's defense? Quote, is anybody dumb enough to believe that I would say something inappropriate with a foreign leader? Yes, Mr. President. Unfortunately, the answer is yes.
The corrupt, lying, rage, and hate-filled media mob, they're at it again, spinning in circles. For the last 24 straight hours, they have again breathlessly, hysterically been echoing a report from the Washington Post.
Biden called this an abuse of power, while the president dismissed the story and denounced the media.
It's a partisan whistleblower. They shouldn't even have information. It's just another political hack job. That's all it is. It's another media disaster. The media has lost so much credibility in this country. Our media has become the laughingstock of the world.
Molly, the president said a moment later he doesn't know who the partisan whistleblower is. So we had the first wave of outrage with the Washington Post story, unspecified country, unspecified promise. But the Wall Street Journal story, I think, talking about this conversation between the two leaders and talk of a Biden investigation, has really sent this story into the stratosphere.
Sure, and we've also seen a lot of conflicting information in these different stories. So the first story talks about a promise being made. The Wall Street Journal story says explicitly there was no demand for quid pro quo or anything like that. So I think we, first off, have a lot more that we need to learn about. Another thing, though, is it really speaks to how much the media blew their credibility by perpetrating this Russia story, where we were promised for years that there were these bombshell pieces of information that in the end would lead to definitive proof that Trump had colluded with Russia to steal the election. That blew up in the media's face. They never took full responsibility for it, and now they want to go on this Ukraine story.
Philippe, I think the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal stories are absolutely news. You do have a complaint. You do have efforts by Congress to find what happened. Trump told reporters it didn't matter whether he talked about Biden with the Ukrainian president. He said nothing inappropriate. The Ukrainian foreign minister is now saying nothing wrong with the call. Is this another potentially huge story? We're hearing the word impeachment again that might not look so cataclysmic once we know all the details.
I don't know once we know the details, but here's what we know. Donald Trump has not denied that he brought up Joe Biden to the foreign minister of Ukraine and to the president of Ukraine. That is not okay, because unless Joe Biden said, hey, Donald, please send my best, there is no reason for Joe Biden's name to come up in that conversation once, twice, 8 times, whether it's promising, threatening, quid pro quo, demanding, whatever it is, that is crossing the line. And yes, there is a problem with that. And let's just say for a moment Hillary Clinton had won and Donald Trump was challenging her again next year, and we were talking about Hillary Clinton talking to a foreign leader to help her find dirt on one of the Trump kids. So your heads would be exploding. Exploding.
Philippe, it is entirely possible, once we learn more, that there will be something that was inappropriate about this. But it's not true just as a matter of course that you can't have these types of conversations with foreign leaders.
To a foreign
Excellent
leader.
question, Philippe.
There's
reason The reason why you bring up Joe Biden is because of the past issues with Ukraine and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, who is not someone who has a lot of expertise in this area, became highly involved in a Ukrainian energy company. There are all sorts of corruption issues involved. The New Yorker has written about it. I commend that you read that article.
Let me just mention that Hunter Biden made a lot of money as the vice president's son from this Ukrainian company. There was an investigation, didn't find any wrongdoing by Hunter Biden. Rudy Giuliani has been talking about this publicly for months. In fact, we had a long conversation about it on this program back in April. Then he really got into it this week with CNN's Chris Cuomo. Take a look.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
You just said you didn't.
No, I didn't ask him to look into Joe Biden. I asked him to look into the allegations that related to my client, which tangentially involved Joe Biden in a massive bribery scheme.
Rudy.
It is sad to watch what happened to you. It's sad.
Sad to watch what happened to me. I'm a sellout.
You are a sellout.
You are telling me that I'm a sellout.
Who is helped when he gets into that kind of shouting match with Chris Cuomo?
I'm not sure, but I think we're all entertained by it, so maybe we're all winners when we watch that. But what I found so fascinating about this whole story is that the story about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's ties to the Ukraine is coming out. Joe Biden said that that never happened, yet there's a video out in his own words saying that he did ask the Ukrainian president at that time to fire someone. And
the fire prosecutor was looking into the company that his son was part of.
So Joe Biden, the story of Joe Biden is the one that's on the forefront now. So some could say, because we don't know what we don't know yet, we should know more Thursday when the Intel IG is going before the House Intelligence Committee. But this could turn into eyes being on the story about Joe Biden and actually turning out worse for him.
Giuliani on Fox, Giuliani on Fox News Sunday complained about the pro-Biden media, which have covered this to some degree. We'll get into that more in a later segment. But Philippe, so obviously the effort by the president, by Rudy, and by their allies is whatever the president said to Ukrainian President Zelensky is not the story. The story is Hunter Biden and his ties, and should he have been paid all this money, and should Biden have threatened Ukraine with withholding $1 billion in foreign
Well, that's
aid?
why the answer to your question is that the winner here is Donald Trump. Now, it's possible for Rudy Giuliani to lose because of that kind of performance, but who cares? He's not running for office.
Why is the winner Donald Trump?
The winner for Donald Trump is because we are spending as much time talking about Joe Biden and Ukraine and his son, which by Rudy's own admission, he was trying for 6 months to get into the public ether. He couldn't. You know what? He has succeeded. This is fantastic for Donald Trump.
That's why I also think we always need to be careful when we're using anonymous sources, how we characterize them. This could be, I mean, we heard it called a whistleblower, but actually the person was hearing hearsay. It could be some Trump official just trying to inject this into the conversation. We should always try to characterize our sources a little carefully.
The Wall Street Journal is owned by the same people that own this table. Rupert Murdoch, yes, it's a public company. I know the routine. This is not like this came from, again, the New York Times or some what you would call liberal rag. Rupert Murdoch's paper is the one that reported.
Okay, but the Journal story was hardly helpful, at least at this juncture, to President Trump.
Because
and on that
maybe
note,
it's true.
On that note, I got to go. Philippe Reines, Beverly Hallberg, Molly Hemingway, thanks very much for coming.